Good afternoon from Longridge. I'm Pieter Conradie. I'm the facilitator for this session. I do apologize for a slight delay. We had to do some bush mechanic work here to get Greg Leach on the line. There's a fair number of questions to him, so we're going to try and keep him on. With me, I've got Dr. Terry Beutel, Dr. Greg Leach, and then also Rob Hassett, the three speakers of earlier, and all of them have done a great job. We'll get right into the questions because it is in Longridge almost very close to lunchtime. So I think the first one I'm going to put, and we'll test the system. It is to you, Greg. They say, the question is from Chris Norman. In terms of ag care, there are already many similar industry-based frameworks, plus drought, resilience, risk planning processes, as well as emerging regen ag environmental market property plans. So the question is, how does your system practically work with these, or is it attempting to replace them as an overarching framework?
Okay, that's a very good question. This framework has been developed by landowners because they want a baseline entry. They want a low-level entry into the natural capital marketplace and natural capital assessment process. And then finding that everything else is a bit too sophisticated, too difficult, and they want some ownership of the process. So they've developed a simple entry point that builds with and links with as many as possible other measurement systems.
Thank you, Greg. I will carry on with Terry. The second question is from Bruce. It says, what's the level of resolution in a paddock with each of A, B, C, and D?
Okay, it's a good question, Bruce. So the product uses Sentinel imagery, which has a 10-metre scale. It won't be predicting at that scale, though. What it does is it breaks the landscape up firstly into polygons that are based on some longer-term cover statistics, and it predicts at that scale. So within the polygon, it'll all be the same land condition rating, and it takes into account to do the predictions some factors around the spatial arrangement of cover in those terms.
Yeah. Thank you. The next one, Greg, is for you also. It's from Robin Cowley. She says your metrics didn't seem to include a long-term carrying capacity or pasture condition assessment. Are they not considered part of natural capital?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So basically, Robin Cowley is asking, are your long-term carrying capacity or pasture condition assessment, are they part of natural capital, because you didn't refer to them in your metrics?
Yes, most certainly. So natural capital is intended as an ongoing yearly assessment process. It incorporates the 10 metrics that I described, and part of that in terms of remnant vegetation, non-remnant vegetation is pasture assessment. Thank you.
I will pass the next question on to Terry again, and this is from Russell. Terry, Lcat, is it a Queensland-specific product, and what is the timing for Veg Machine update and release?
Okay, so I guess two things there, and Rob may want to talk to the Lcat thing. I guess in terms of releasing the mapping through Veg Machine, a few things there. So our first version of the land condition mapping is probably 6 to 12 months away, and the extent of that at this point in time isn't entirely clear. It may be Queensland-wide, although the data is pretty thin in a lot of areas. Certainly it'll be for those key reef catchments that we've been working in. It'll be available for that. Now, long-term, we're aiming to present it through Veg Machine. Now, this project, amongst other things, will rebuild Veg Machine. So for those users out there of Veg Machine, you'll be aware that we've had some stability issues in the past, so that the project will be upgrading Veg Machine. And the longer-term plan is to present it through that. So it won't be available through that initially. if you are out there and you are interested in looking at the first version of the mapping, the land condition mapping, what I would say to you is stay in touch with us. And we're happy to work with people and get your feedback on that product. That's about where we are at the moment.
Okay, and then the next part is to Rob. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, the Lcat's designed for use in Northern Australia. So there's 585 pasture species and hundreds of understory and overstory species. It can be used anywhere in Northern Australia. It can also be used in Southern Australia, but obviously in some of the different vegetation communities in Southern Australia, the ABCD result might not be appropriate to use. But in all cases, it can be used as purely as a data collection tool, and you can pick and choose which results are meaningful for you if you wish. So yes, it can be used throughout all of Northern Australia in particular. Just needs to be a bit of consideration given to the relevance of some of the results.
Thank you. The next question is to Greg again, and it's from Pieter. And she says, it's interesting that you found all properties to be neutral or positive. Were you surprised by this result? And the properties that you refer to are the 37, I would assume, that you did in your pilot study. And you indicated there that they were carbon neutral so I think that, could you hear that question?
Yes. So the initial assessment that we did was mostly on grazing properties, a couple of mixed properties, and we have a need in our second round of testing to do more cultivation properties more heavily into intensive use. I guess it's very heartening that the initial testing with the grazing properties emphatically showed that they were net sequesterers. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Then we've got a question here from John Lays, also for you, Greg, and it's about payments for ecosystem services. The first question is who pays, and the second question, if there had been no change in the land use, e.g. to agriculture, the ecosystem service would have been provided for free. Since ag production has reduced some ecosystem services, should payments be based on improvement of service provision? So it's quite a long question. Did you get that?
Is that for me?
Yes, that's for you, Greg. Did you catch it?
Okay, so it's a key context issue as to why the landowners wanted to make a methodology that doesn't consider additionality. It considers the property as it is now, and then it's a relative improvement, stabilisation, or decrease in conditions from a benchmark position. And the landholders were emphatic that they don't want to be concerned about additionality because it simply encourages properties that are in poor condition to get a part of the marketplace, and those that have been supported and looked after for many years are actually restricted from the marketplace.
Thank you. We heard about some really interesting products that are available, and I've got a question to Terry and Rob there in particular. The accessibility to producers of these products, how accessible are they at the moment?
Right. Okay. Well, currently the land condition mapping, so I'll talk there. It's currently not accessible because we're still to develop it. It's 6 to 12 months away. In terms of what will make that accessible, and I guess more on adoption, the things for us that we're wanting to focus on is getting that extension support out there, so making it clear for end users what the mapping means and how it can be used. And we will be looking for partners to help us along with that. And also there's an important thing here in terms of packaging and producing products that are relevant and appropriate to the questions that our users want. In terms of other incentives for people to pick these up, I guess one thing is that would help, and we're starting to see this emerge, and Greg's stuff as an example, is buy-in by markets and banks to this. I think that will really make it more relevant. And a question that I've had in my head for a long time about, particularly with land condition, is how it relates to property prices, because that really gets people's attention. It's not clear at this point in time, as far as I'm aware, whether land condition is priced into property values. My gut feeling is that it's not. But either way, there's an interesting story there that affects the way that people use this information.
Rob, I want to put the question over to you more specifically for the Lcat. And I know some of the government agencies are using the product. Are they? Is it widely used? And secondly, are there some producers that are actually also using it, and how easy is it to use?
Yep, thanks, Peter. At the moment, in the first 12 months, there's over 200 users across more than 20 organisations. At the moment, it's mostly, all of the NRM groups, service providers and delivery partners in the Great Barrier Reef catchments, and Queensland Government staff, as well as SEQ Water and other organisations that have an interest. At the moment, being built on Survey 123, it requires an ArcGIS Online user account, which I think for a private account costs a couple of $100 a year or something like that. So that is a limitation. However, if landholders are interested, and there certainly are a lot of landholders that are interested, if they are interested in having access to it, I encourage them to speak to their NRM organisation or their local land care group or DAF extension staff or anyone that they typically partner with, and we'll do everything we can to host a license, have that organisation host a license on their behalf. In terms of is it simple to use? Yes, very simple to use. I've just released, I'm about to release version 2, which has got user information built into the app, so it's much quicker to pick up. And using the pictograms is certainly proved to be very simple and accessible to a large number of people.
Peter, can I just add one more thing there? In my talk about how I spoke about how to get involved, but with individual landholders, if you are interested in contributing to this, but you don't want to collect the data, we are always looking for properties where we can do our sampling. So if you are interested from that point of view, feel free to contact either myself or Rob.
Yep, and sorry, just another thing to add on there. To support the product, I've put together a large reference guide, and it is a reference guide. So if someone doesn't know anything about land condition or how to undertake an assessment or what these indicators are used for, there is a reference guide, and part of that reference guide there's a paper form. So a landholder could use a paper form and simply tick boxes on the pictograms and send that to whoever they might be engaging with, and we can convert those results.
Thank you for that. I've got 2 late questions that have just come in here for Rob, but Terry, you might also be wanting to jump in. That'll be the last 2 questions also. So first one, Rob, can extra species be added to Lcat? And maybe you should answer that one first.
Yes, absolutely. So there's 585 or so species in there now, and each species, this is pasture species, each pasture species is categorised and weighted so that depending on which is the dominant pasture species, that contributes to the results. In terms of pest animals, pest plants, understory and overstory species, yes, it's the way that I've built the framework and the way it's managed in Survey 123. It's very, very easy to update at any time, add more species, and then just push through an update that that won't affect any existing surveys.
Rob, you might have answered the question from Matthew Fletcher there, because he was just asking if Survey 123 application can be uploaded to a phone by a land manager, and I would assume the answer there is definitely yes then.
If they have, it requires an ArcGIS online account, and as I said earlier, landholders, if they do want to be involved, they can work with one of their partners, an NRM or other service provider, and we can try and make licenses available through those organisations.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you to the panel, Terry, Greg. We may have lost again, and Rob. It's been the most useful, and it's great to see that there are so many tools that are going to assist us into the future. So thank you for that, and thank you for all the participants that sent in questions.